Sir, this ticket clearly doesn't belong to you. Security will escort you out now. Gate agent Cheryl Morrison snatched the boarding pass from Darius Washington's hand. She tore it cleanly in half. The pieces fluttered to the polished terminal floor at his worn sneakers. Her manicured finger pointed toward the exit like a weapon. Chicago O'Hare Terminal 3 buzzed with Tuesday afternoon energy. Gate B12 held 200 passengers waiting for Flight 1947 to Atlanta. Children pressed faces against windows. Business travelers typed frantically on laptops. All eyes turned to watch the confrontation unfold. Darius stood motionless in his faded jeans and college hoodie. His weathered backpack hung from one shoulder. Nothing about his appearance suggested wealth or power, but his calm smile never wavered. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a second boarding pass. Gold lettering caught the fluorescent light. Chairman's Reserve. What happens when someone pushes the wrong person too far? Cheryl's eyes narrowed at the gold-striped boarding pass. She didn't even glance at the embossed lettering. People like you always try to game the system. Her voice carried across the gate area. This first-class ticket is obviously fake. She turned her back while Darius spoke, making a show of ignoring his explanation. Her supervisor badge caught the light as she gestured dismissively. Anyone can print fake tickets these days, she announced loudly. I've seen this scam before. 23-year-old Jennifer Kim sat near gate B13, waiting for her connecting flight to Denver. The confrontation caught her attention. She opened TikTok and hit the live button. Y'all seeing this racism in real time at O'Hare Gate B12, she whispered into her phone. The viewer count climbed from 12 to 147 within minutes. Darius remained composed. Ma'am, I checked in online this morning. My confirmation number is... I don't want to hear your excuses. Cheryl rolled her eyes dramatically. She spoke louder now, ensuring nearby passengers could hear every word. Security handles situations like this. Her body language screamed authority and disdain. She crossed her arms, tapped her foot impatiently, used exaggerated facial expressions that made several children giggle nervously. An elderly businessman in a navy suit approached the desk. Excuse me, I saw this gentleman check in at the first-class counter an hour ago. Cheryl barely acknowledged him. Sir, please return to your seat. We'll handle this disruption. The businessman's face flushed red. He'd flown over 2 million miles in his career, never seen such blatant discrimination. Jennifer's live stream exploded with comments. This is disgusting. Someone call the news. What airline is this? Get this viral now. The viewer count hit 800 and climbing. A young mother with twin toddlers whispered to her husband, This is horrible. That poor man. Her 5-year-old daughter tugged on her sleeve. Mommy, why is that lady being mean? The mother had no good answer. Darius pulled out his phone. The screen showed his mobile boarding pass with a clear first-class seat assignment. He held it toward Cheryl. Here's my digital confirmation. She waved it away without looking. Digital tickets are even easier to fake. Nice try. A college student recording on Snapchat muttered, This is insane. His friend shook her head. Welcome to America in 2024. The gate area tension thickened. Conversations died. Passengers stared openly now. Some filmed discreetly. Others looked away in embarrassment. Cheryl enjoyed the attention. She'd worked this job for 12 years, dealt with all types, knew how to handle troublemakers. Listen carefully, she said, pointing her finger at Darius's chest. You can purchase an economy ticket at the counter, but this first-class nonsense ends now. Darius's voice stayed level. I'd like to speak with your supervisor. I am the supervisor for this gate. Cheryl's smirk widened. And I'm telling you to move along. The elderly businessman stepped forward again. His wife grabbed his arm. Don't get involved, Harold, she whispered. It's not our problem. But Harold had seen enough. Young lady, I've been flying for 40 years. That man has every right to board this aircraft. Cheryl's patience evaporated. Sir, if you continue disrupting our operation, I'll have you removed as well. Harold's mouth fell open. In 4 decades of business travel, he'd never heard such threatening language from airline staff. Jennifer's TikTok stream now had over 3,000 viewers. Comments flooded in faster than she could read them. Record everything. What's his name? And this needs to go viral. Post this everywhere. A teenager with blue hair whispered to her girlfriend, "This is why I hate flying." Her girlfriend nodded grimly. Some of these real-life stories are just heartbreaking. 2 businessmen near the window exchanged glances. One pulled out his phone and started recording. The other shook his head in disgust. 12 years I've been flying this route, the first man said quietly. Never seen anything like this. A flight attendant walked past, headed to another gate. She noticed the commotion but kept walking. Not her problem, not her flight. Cheryl checked her watch. "Sir, you have 60 seconds to move away from my desk before I call security." Darius remained perfectly still. His backpack didn't even shift on his shoulder. "I understand you're doing your job," he said calmly, "but I have a valid ticket for this flight." "Fake ticket," Cheryl corrected. "Big difference." She picked up her desk phone and dialed 4 digits. "Security to gate B12. We have a disruptive passenger refusing to comply." The announcement echoed through the PA system. Passengers throughout the terminal turned their heads. Jennifer's viewer count spiked to 4,700. Her phone battery dropped to 18%. A businessman from Chicago texted his wife, "Witnessing discrimination at airport. This is terrible." His wife immediately shared the message on Facebook. "My husband is seeing racism at O'Hare right now. These black stories break my heart." 3 more passengers started filming. The gate area buzzed with whispered conversations and clicking phone cameras. Cheryl straightened her uniform jacket, smoothed her hair. She'd handled tougher situations than this, but something in Darius's calm demeanor unsettled her. Most passengers argued, shouted, demanded managers. This man just stood there, waiting, like he knew something she didn't. 2 TSA officers approached Gate B12 with heavy footsteps. Lead Officer Rodriguez had seen every type of airport drama in his 15-year career. His partner, Officer Chen, was younger, eager to prove himself. "What's the situation?" Rodriguez asked, scanning the crowd of recording phones. Cheryl pointed at Darius like he was a criminal. "This individual attempted to board with fraudulent first-class documentation." Rodriguez examined the torn boarding pass pieces scattered on the floor, then studied Darius's calm demeanor. Something didn't add up. "Sir, identification and boarding pass, please." Darius handed over his driver's license and the gold-striped chairman's reserve pass without hesitation. Rodriguez studied both documents under the gate's bright lights. His partner leaned in, squinting at the embossed lettering. "These look legitimate to me," Rodriguez said slowly. Cheryl's voice cracked with frustration. "I'm telling you, it's fake. People like him don't fly first class." The words hit the crowd like a slap. Officer Chen's jaw dropped slightly. Rodriguez's expression hardened. Jennifer's TikTok stream exploded past 15,000 viewers. Her phone screen blazed with comments. "Did she just say that? Someone call the news now. This is going viral. Record everything." A supervisor in a pressed airline uniform rushed toward the gate. Janet Phillips managed ground operations across 3 terminals. She'd handled passenger disputes for 8 years. Never anything quite like this. "What's the problem here?" Phillips demanded, already calculating the PR nightmare. Cheryl immediately launched her defense. "This passenger tried boarding with fake documentation. I followed standard protocol." Phillips glanced at the sea of recording smartphones. Her stomach dropped. Bad optics. Very bad optics. "Sir," she addressed Darius with forced professionalism, "you're disrupting our boarding process." Harold, the elderly businessman, stepped forward again. His hands shook with anger. "This is absolutely disgusting," Harold said loudly. I watched this gentleman check in properly an hour ago. Phillips barely looked at him. Sir, return to your seat immediately, or security will remove you as well. Harold's wife grabbed his arm desperately. Harold, please don't. But Harold had fought in Vietnam, seen real injustice. This felt like stories his grandfather told about the Jim Crow era. I'm not moving, he declared. A ripple of approval swept through nearby passengers. Jennifer's battery hit 10%, but 20,000 people watched her stream. Celebrity accounts started sharing clips. Local news assignment desks lit up with incoming tips. O'Hare discrimination began trending across Chicago. Phillips felt the situation spiraling beyond control. She grabbed the gate microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a security delay. Flight 1847 may depart late due to a disruptive passenger. 200 travelers groaned in unison, but nobody looked away from the confrontation. A flight attendant from Delta walked past, noticed the crowd, and discreetly called her supervisor. Discrimination incident developing at Gate B12, she whispered. It's going viral fast. Phillips checked her watch. 35 minutes until scheduled departure. Sir, she told Darius firmly, I'm removing you from this flight for disruptive behavior. Gasps echoed through the terminal. Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. His law enforcement instincts screamed that something was wrong with this picture. Ma'am, this gentleman's documentation appears completely valid, Rodriguez said carefully. Airport security doesn't determine ticket validity, Phillips snapped. Airline personnel do, that's final. She turned to address the crowd directly. Everyone please return to your seats. We're handling a security situation that requires your cooperation. Nobody moved an inch. The college student with blue hair started Facebook Live while her girlfriend shared it across Instagram and Snapchat simultaneously. A businessman near the window texted his 50,000 Twitter followers, "Watching blatant discrimination at O'Hare Gate B12 right now. This is insane." Within 3 minutes, O'Hare racism was trending citywide. Phillips felt complete control slipping away. She made a desperate play. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced over the intercom, we have a security threat requiring immediate passenger removal. This may delay our departure significantly. The crowd's anger shifted toward her. Remove her instead, someone shouted. This is ridiculous, called another voice. 200 smartphones captured every word, every expression, every gesture. Darius remained perfectly still in the center of chaos. Surrounded by hostile staff, uncertain security officers, and a crowd of strangers defending him. His composure never cracked, not even slightly. Rodriguez noticed something unsettling in the man's quiet confidence, like he was waiting for something specific to happen. Officers, Phillips commanded, escort this individual from the gate area immediately. Rodriguez hesitated. Every instinct told him this was wrong. Sir, he said reluctantly to Darius, I need you to come with us. Of course, officer, Darius replied calmly, but perhaps you should wait just one moment. Why would we wait? Phillips demanded. Someone's coming to speak with you. Phillips laughed harshly. Nobody's coming to rescue you. You're leaving this gate right now. Jennifer's stream hit 28,000 viewers. Her dying phone displayed a blur of supportive comments. A teenager at Gate B14 started Instagram Live. Her followers shared immediately to TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. The viral momentum built exponentially by the second. Phillips grabbed Rodriguez's uniform sleeve. Officer, remove this man immediately. That's an order. Rodriguez looked at his partner. Chen shrugged helplessly. Both officers stepped closer to Darius. Sir, you need to come with us now, Rodriguez said with genuine reluctance. Darius shouldered his weathered backpack peacefully. The crowd watched in horrified silence. Harold clenched his fists until his knuckles went white. This is completely wrong. These real-life stories of discrimination never end. His wife pulled him back frantically. Harold, don't make it worse. But Harold had witnessed enough injustice for several lifetimes. A woman near the windows whispered to her husband, These black stories always break my heart. Someone needs to help him. Her husband kept filming. I can't believe this is happening in 2024. Phillips checked her watch obsessively. 10 minutes until boarding should begin. Let's move, she ordered the officers. Rodriguez reached for his handcuffs reluctantly. The crowd held its collective breath. That's when Darius's iPhone buzzed with an incoming call. He glanced at the screen and his slight smile widened imperceptibly. Actually, he said with quiet authority, I think you all might want to reconsider your positions. Rodriguez paused, handcuffs halfway out of his belt. What do you mean? Phillips demanded. Darius answered his phone calmly. Yes, I'm at gate B12, he said into the device. Please send him down immediately. He ended the call and looked directly at Phillips. Your airport operations manager should be here any moment. Phillips frowned. How do you know our operations manager? We've met before. Something in his tone made Rodriguez step back slightly. Cheryl checked her watch impatiently. Can we please finish this? I have passengers to board. But Phillips noticed something she'd missed before. Darius wasn't just calm, he was completely, utterly confident, like a man who held all the cards. A man in an expensive charcoal suit sprinted through Terminal 3. His polished Italian leather shoes clicked against the marble floors as he dodged between startled travelers pulling suitcases. Airport Operations Manager David Sterling had received exactly 3 phone calls in his 22-year career that made his blood run cold. This was the worst one yet. He reached gate B12 breathing hard, his usually perfect silver hair disheveled from running. His tie hung crooked. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the terminal's air conditioning. The crowd parted as he approached. Mr. Washington, he called out, slightly out of breath. Every single head in the gate area turned in unison. Phillips frowned, confusion replacing her earlier confidence. David? What are you doing here? How do you know this man's name? Sterling ignored her completely. He walked directly to Darius with the reverence of a man approaching royalty. He extended his hand formally. Sir, I sincerely apologize for this inexcusable situation. Please accept my deepest regrets on behalf of the entire airport authority. The crowd murmured in growing confusion. Rodriguez lowered his handcuffs slowly, his weathered face showing complete bewilderment. Phillips stared in shock. Something was happening that she didn't understand. Something big. David, what's going on? She demanded. Who is this man? Sterling's face had gone completely pale. His hands trembled slightly as he straightened his crooked tie. Miss Phillips, he said carefully, this is Darius Washington. So what? I don't care if his name is George Washington. He's disrupting. He's the chief executive officer of Sky Connect Aviation. The words hit gate B12 like a physical explosion. Cheryl's smug expression didn't just crumble, it disintegrated completely. Phillips felt the blood drain from her face so fast she thought she might faint. Rodriguez and Chen exchanged stunned glances, both officers stepping back instinctively. The crowd erupted in gasps, whispers, and shocked exclamations. Oh my God, someone whispered. Did he say CEO? Called another voice. This is unreal, muttered a businessman. Jennifer's TikTok stream, now being shared across dozens of other accounts, exploded with comments scrolling faster than anyone could read. Holy shit, did you hear that? CEO of what company? This is the plot twist of the century. I can't believe this is real. Someone record everything. Harold's wife grabbed her husband's arm so hard her knuckles went white. Harold, did he just say CEO? Harold nodded slowly, a satisfied smile spreading across his weathered face like sunrise. He sure did, Martha. He sure did. But Sterling wasn't finished delivering the devastating news. Sky Connect Aviation, he continued, his voice carrying clearly across the now silent terminal, is the parent company that owns 34% of this airline's domestic route network. Phillips felt her legs go weak. She gripped the gate counter to keep from falling. They control our most profitable government contracts, Sterling added, each word hitting like a hammer blow. Worth approximately $2.3 billion annually. Cheryl's mouth opened and closed repeatedly. No sound came out. A teenager near gate B13 started screaming to her friend, "Bro, this CEO is about to destroy these racist employees. This is the best karma video ever." Our entire Chicago hub operation, Sterling continued relentlessly, depends on SkyConnect's partnership agreements. 15,000 jobs across our network rely on this relationship. The mathematical reality crashed down on everyone present. 15,000 families, 15,000 paychecks, 15,000 people whose livelihoods depended on keeping this man happy. And they had just humiliated him publicly. Mr. Washington personally approves all major contract renewals, Sterling said, addressing the stunned crowd. Those renewals determine whether our airline continues operating at current capacity. The silence that followed was so complete that the terminal's air conditioning seemed loud. Darius finally spoke. His voice remained calm and measured, but now everyone heard the quiet authority behind it. "Ms. Morrison," he addressed Cheryl directly. She flinched like he'd shouted. "You said people like me don't fly first class." Cheryl tried to respond, but only managed a strangled whimper. "I'm genuinely curious," Darius continued with devastating politeness. "What exactly did you mean by that statement?" The question hung in the air like the aftermath of an explosion. Jennifer's stream had been picked up by major news accounts. The viewer count, now spread across multiple platforms, exceeded 100,000 people watching in real time. A businessman near the window whispered to his wife, "This is the most incredible real-time karma I've ever witnessed in my life." His wife nodded, unable to look away. "These life stories always start the same way. But this ending is different." Phillips tried desperately to regain some control of the situation. "Mr. Washington, I'm absolutely certain this was all just a terrible misunderstanding." "Was it?" Darius interrupted with gentle precision. The question cut through her excuses like a blade. "Your gate agent examined my boarding pass and declared it fraudulent. She tore it in half and threw the pieces at my feet." He gestured toward the scattered paper still littering the polished floor. "She announced to 200 witnesses that people like me always try to game the system." Sterling winced visibly at each devastating point. "Then you arrived and immediately sided with her without examining any evidence. You threatened to charge me $50,000 per minute for flight delays caused by my disruptive behavior." Phillips opened her mouth, but no words emerged. "You ordered my removal from the aircraft and threatened other passengers who defended me." Darius's voice remained perfectly level, which made his words even more powerful. "What exactly was disruptive about presenting valid documentation for a seat I purchased with my own money?" Phillips had no answer. There was no answer. Rodriguez stepped forward awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable. "Sir, we didn't know who you were." "Officer Rodriguez," Darius said kindly, "you conducted yourself professionally throughout this incident. You examined my documents carefully and found them legitimate. I have nothing but respect for how you handled this situation." Rodriguez looked genuinely relieved. Darius turned his attention back to Phillips and Cheryl. "But these two made assumptions based entirely on my appearance. They decided that a black man in casual clothes couldn't possibly belong in first class." The words "black man" hit the crowd like lightning. He'd said what everyone was thinking, but no one dared voice. The college student with blue hair whispered into her phone, "He just called it exactly what it is. This CEO is not playing games." Her girlfriend shared the stream to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter simultaneously. An elderly woman near gate B13 shook her head sadly. "These touching stories of discrimination always have the same painful beginning. Thank God this one has a different ending." Sterling's radio crackled to life. "David, we're getting calls from Channel 7, ABC, and NBC News. They want statements about the Gate B12 incident." He fumbled to turn the volume down, but everyone heard. The media circus had begun. "Mr. Washington," Sterling said carefully, "how can we possibly make this right?" Darius considered the question thoughtfully. "That depends entirely on whether your airline believes in accountability." He pulled out his phone and showed the screen to Sterling. "I have a confirmed first-class reservation. Confirmation number BR94731, purchased 3 days ago for full fare. No discounts, no upgrades, no special treatment. Just a regular business traveler trying to get home to his family." Sterling examined the confirmation details. Everything was completely legitimate. "Yet your employees decided I was committing fraud." The statement carried quiet power that made passengers throughout the gate area lean closer. A flight attendant from Delta had stopped to watch the confrontation. She pulled out her phone and started recording. "This is going straight to corporate training," she whispered to her colleague. "This is textbook discrimination response." Cheryl finally found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "Mr. Washington, I was just following standard security protocols." "Ms. Morrison," Darius replied with devastating calm, "which security protocols require tearing up valid boarding passes without examination?" Cheryl stammered helplessly. "Which protocols suggest that passengers should be judged by their clothing rather than their documentation?" She had no response. "Which protocols recommend assuming that people of my race can't afford first-class tickets?" The question echoed through Terminal 3 like a thunderclap. Jennifer's original stream had been saved and reshared by hundreds of accounts. The combined viewership exceeded 200,000 people across all platforms. A teenager texted her mother. "Mom, you have to see this airport discrimination video. This CEO is absolutely destroying these racist employees with facts." Her mother immediately shared it in her church Facebook group, her work chat, and her book club thread. Sterling's radio crackled again. "David, CNN and MSNBC are both requesting interviews. The story is trending nationally." He turned the radio off completely. Phillips made one final, desperate attempt to salvage anything from the disaster. "Mr. Washington, surely we can resolve this matter privately." Darius gestured toward the sea of recording phones surrounding them. "Ms. Phillips, over 200,000 people are currently watching this conversation across multiple social media platforms." The number hit her like a physical blow. 6 major news outlets are monitoring the live streams. This stopped being private 20 minutes ago. A businessman in a Yankees cap laughed out loud. "Lady, you just got schooled by a master." His wife elbowed him quiet, but she was smiling too. Darius looked directly at Cheryl Morrison. "Ms. Morrison, you have one opportunity to explain your actions to these witnesses." Cheryl's hands shook violently as she tried to form coherent thoughts into words. I thought the ticket looked suspicious because..." She stopped, realizing she was about to say something even more damaging. "What made it look suspicious?" Darius pressed gently. "Well, I don't know exactly. It just seemed wrong somehow." "Wrong how?" She couldn't finish any sentence without admitting the truth. "Ms. Morrison, I've flown over 800,000 miles in my business career, most of them in first class or business class. I've never had my ticket questioned before today." He paused, letting that devastating fact sink in completely. "So I'll ask you directly. What made today different from every other day?" The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Harold called out from the crowd, his voice carrying clearly across the gate area. "We all know exactly what made today different." Several passengers nodded vigorously and voiced agreement. "That's right. Everyone can see it? Just say what we're all thinking." Sterling's face had gone completely ashen. Phillips looked like she might be sick. And in that moment of absolute truth, Darius delivered the final, crushing blow. "Now," he said with quiet authority, "let's discuss what happens next." Sterling's radio had been silent for exactly 90 seconds when his phone rang with a tone reserved for only one person, the CEO. "I have to take this," he whispered, stepping away from the crowd with trembling hands. "David?" The voice belonged to Patricia Wells, Chief Executive Officer of Meridian Airlines. She was calling from her corporate jet somewhere over Missouri. "Yes, ma'am." "Is it true that we just publicly humiliated the CEO of SkyConnect Aviation?" Sterling closed his eyes. "Yes, ma'am." A long pause, then, "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "We're trying to fix..." "David, our stock price has already dropped 4% in the last 10 minutes. Social media is calling for boycotts. The board is in emergency session." Sterling felt his 22-year career crumbling in real time. "Get me on a video call with Mr. Washington immediately." "And David? Pray he's feeling forgiving today." Sterling returned to the gate where Darius waited patiently, surrounded by hundreds of recording phones and a crowd that now exceeded 300 people. "Mr. Washington," Sterling said formally, "our CEO would like to speak with you directly." Darius nodded calmly. "Of course." Sterling pulled out his tablet and initiated the emergency video conference protocol. Within 30 seconds, Patricia Wells appeared on screen, her usually perfect composure clearly shaken. "Mr. Washington," she began immediately, "I cannot express how deeply sorry—" Darius held up one hand politely, stopping her mid-sentence. "Ms. Wells, before we begin, I want you to understand the current situation." He gestured toward the massive crowd watching their every word. "We're standing in the middle of Chicago O'Hare's Terminal 3. There are over 400 people recording this conversation. Multiple news outlets are broadcasting live coverage." Wells's face paled visibly on the screen. "This is not a private corporate discussion. This is a public accounting of your company's values." A businessman near the window called out, "That's right. We're all witnesses." Several other passengers voiced agreement. Darius continued with measured authority. "Your employees made assumptions about my character based entirely on my race and appearance. Mr. Washington, I assure you this does not represent..." "Ms. Wells, let me share some specific details with our audience." The crowd pressed closer, smartphones held high. 34% of your domestic route network operates under SkyConnect licensing agreements. That's 1,247 daily flights carrying approximately 180,000 passengers. Wells nodded reluctantly on the screen. "Our current contract generates $2.3 billion in annual revenue for your airline. That represents roughly 43% of your total domestic earnings." The mathematical reality hit the crowd like physical weight. 15,000 of your employees receive paychecks that depend directly on SkyConnect partnerships. Another 8,000 jobs are indirectly supported by our agreements. A flight attendant in the crowd whispered to her colleague, "That's almost everyone in our entire system." "The current 5-year contract expires in 37 days, Darius continued relentlessly. "Renewal negotiations were scheduled to begin next week in Atlanta." He paused, letting the timing sink in completely. "I was flying to Atlanta today to finalize those discussions." Phillips felt the floor seem to shift beneath her feet. "Now I'm wondering whether Meridian Airlines is the right partner for SkyConnect's future expansion." Wells's voice came through the tablet speakers with barely controlled panic. "Mr. Washington, please don't let the actions of two individuals who represent your company's hiring practices, training standards, and corporate culture." The statement hit like a surgical strike. A college student called out, "He's absolutely right. This shows what your company really believes." Other voices joined in agreement. "Your gate agent announced to 400 witnesses that people like me don't belong in first class," Darius continued with devastating calm. "Your supervisor immediately sided with her without examining any evidence. She threatened other passengers who defended me." Wells tried to interrupt, but Darius wasn't finished. "They called security to remove a paying customer whose only crime was existing while black in your terminal." The phrase, "existing while black," hit the crowd with electric intensity. Jennifer had found a phone charger and resumed streaming. Her viewer count climbed past 300,000 across all platforms. Comments blazed across the screen. Existing while black? Exactly. This CEO is speaking truth, dragging them with facts. Systematic racism exposed. Ms. Wells, Darius said, what specific actions will your airline take to address this systemic problem? The question hung in the air like a legal subpoena. Wells struggled visibly on screen. We can offer you compensation. I don't want your money. The response surprised everyone. Then what do you want? Wells asked carefully. Darius smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the expression of a man holding all the cards. I want concrete, measurable changes to your operational procedures. He pulled out his phone and began reading from notes like a prepared legal brief. First, immediate termination of Ms. Cheryl Morrison for discriminatory conduct. 0 severance. Banned from future employment with any SkyConnect partner airline. Cheryl gasped audibly. Phillips grabbed the counter to steady herself. Second, 90-day suspension without pay for Supervisor Janet Phillips. Mandatory sensitivity training before reinstatement. Third, implementation of bias detection monitoring at all customer service points. AI-powered cameras that flag discriminatory language and behavior. The crowd murmured appreciatively at the high-tech solution. Fourth, comprehensive diversity training for all 12,000 customer-facing employees. 8-hour modules with quarterly refresher courses. Wells nodded rapidly on screen. We can implement... Darius wasn't finished. Fifth, a $500,000 donation to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the National Urban League. Sixth, monthly diversity audits conducted by external consulting firms. Results published publicly on your website. Seventh, establishment of a customer discrimination reporting system. Zero tolerance enforcement with immediate investigation protocols. Each demand hit like a hammer blow. A businessman in the crowd started clapping. Others joined until applause echoed through the terminal. These aren't suggestions, Ms. Wells. These are the minimum requirements for SkyConnect to consider contract renewal. Wells's voice came through strained and desperate. Mr. Washington, we accept all conditions. Implementation begins immediately. But Darius had one more devastating card to play. There's an 8th requirement. The terminal fell silent again. Public acknowledgement of discriminatory behavior. A formal apology broadcast on your company's social media accounts and website. Not a generic statement about customer service. A specific admission that your employees engaged in racial profiling. Wells looked like she might be physically sick. The apology must include concrete steps to prevent future incidents and a commitment to cultural change throughout your organization. Sterling had been frantically taking notes on his tablet. Sir, we can have legal draft something. No lawyers, Darius said firmly. No corporate speak. A simple, honest acknowledgement written by Ms. Wells, personally. The crowd appreciated this touch of authenticity. You have 24 hours to post the apology and begin implementation of all 8 requirements. Darius's voice carried the quiet authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed. Failure to comply fully results in immediate contract cancellation. SkyConnect has alternative partnerships already negotiated. The threat wasn't subtle. It didn't need to be. Your stock price will drop approximately 23% within hours of contract termination. Recovery would take 3 to 5 years, assuming you survive the financial impact. Wells nodded desperately. We understand completely. Excellent. Ms. Phillips, please arrange for my boarding. I have a meeting in Atlanta to attend. Phillips stammered, Of course, Mr. Washington. Right away. She practically ran to prepare his first-class boarding. Sterling closed the tablet, ending the call with his CEO. The crowd began dispersing slowly, many still recording and sharing videos. Harold approached Darius directly. Sir, that was the most incredible display of principled leadership I've seen in 40 years. Darius shook his hand warmly. Thank you for standing up for what was right. That took real courage. Martha, Harold's wife, wiped tears from her eyes. These are the real-life stories that give me hope for change. A flight attendant stopped to speak with Darius. Sir, I've worked in aviation for 15 years. What you just accomplished will benefit thousands of employees and millions of passengers. Darius nodded graciously. Change only happens when people demand accountability. Jennifer approached with her phone, still streaming to her massive audience. Mr. Washington, would you say something to everyone watching? Darius looked directly into the camera. Today wasn't about me personally. It was about using whatever power you have to create systematic change. Real justice isn't about revenge. It's about ensuring this never happens to anyone else. The message resonated across social media platforms, generating thousands of supportive comments and shares. Phillips returned, her professional demeanor restored but her confidence permanently shaken. Mr. Washington, your flight is ready for boarding whenever you are. Darius shouldered his backpack and walked toward the jet bridge. As he reached the gate, he turned back to the crowd one final time. Thank you all for being witnesses to accountability in action. Then he disappeared down the jet bridge, leaving behind a terminal full of people who had witnessed history in the making. 18 hours later, Cheryl Morrison cleaned out her desk at Gate B12 for the final time. Security Officer Martinez watched silently as she packed 12 years of employment into 2 cardboard boxes. Her supervisor badge lay on the desk, powerless now. Ma'am, I need your employee ID and security clearance, Martinez said professionally. Cheryl handed them over without making eye contact. Her hands still trembled slightly. The termination letter cited discriminatory conduct incompatible with company values and violation of customer service standards. No severance package, no references, no future in the airline industry. Word traveled fast in aviation. Her name was already flagged in hiring databases across every major carrier. Meanwhile, Janet Phillips sat in Human Resources Director Sarah Chen's office, signing suspension documents. 90 days without pay, Chen explained. Mandatory bias training, sensitivity counseling, performance review upon return. Phillips nodded numbly. Her 23 years of service meant nothing now. Janet, you'll be lucky to keep your job at all, Chen continued. The board wanted termination. Mr. Washington specifically requested you get a second chance. Phillips looked up in surprise. He said everyone deserves an opportunity to learn from their mistakes. Don't waste it. Across the terminal, workers installed new AI-powered monitoring cameras at every gate. The Equality Eye system could detect discriminatory language patterns and flag incidents in real time. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the consulting firm's diversity expert, supervised the installation. Each camera monitors voice patterns, body language, and interaction dynamics, she explained to gathered airline staff. Supervisors receive immediate alerts when bias indicators are detected. A gate agent raised her hand nervously. What happens if the system flags us? Immediate review and coaching, Doctor, Martinez replied. This isn't about punishment, it's about awareness and improvement. The technology represented cutting-edge bias detection, developed by SkyConnect's AI division specifically for customer service environments. At 2:47 p.m. exactly, 24 hours after the incident, Meridian Airlines' official social media accounts posted Patricia Wells's personal statement. Yesterday at Chicago O'Hare, our employees engaged in unacceptable racial profiling against Mr. Darius Washington. Their actions were discriminatory, wrong, and contrary to our stated values. I take full personal responsibility for the culture that allowed this to happen. We are implementing immediate changes, comprehensive bias training for all staff, AI monitoring systems, external diversity audits, and zero-tolerance enforcement policies. We are donating $500,000 to civil rights organizations and establishing new customer protection protocols. This is not just an apology, it's a commitment to fundamental change. We will be better. The statement went viral immediately, garnering over 2 million views in the first hour. Comments flooded in. Finally, real accountability. Actions matter more than words. This is how you handle discrimination. Other companies should follow this example. News outlets praised the comprehensive response. Business journals analyzed it as a case study in crisis management and corporate responsibility. At SkyConnect headquarters in Atlanta, Darius reviewed implementation reports in his corner office overlooking Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. His assistant knocked and entered. "Sir, Meridian has completed all 8 requirements ahead of schedule." "Training programs?" "Launched yesterday. All 12,000 employees enrolled. First modules completed with 96% participation." "Monitoring systems?" "Operational at all 347 gates. Dr. Martinez reports successful detection of bias patterns in 6 test scenarios." "Customer reporting platform?" "Live as of this morning. Anonymous reporting with immediate escalation protocols." Darius nodded approvingly. "Excellent work." His phone buzzed with a text from Harold, the businessman from Gate B12. "Flew Meridian again today. Gate agent was respectful and professional. Change is happening. Thank you." Similar messages arrived daily from passengers who witnessed the incident. Jennifer's TikTok video had reached 5 million views across all platforms, inspiring countless discussions about discrimination and accountability. The hashtag #OHairJustice hashtag trended for 6 days, generating over 50,000 posts about bias in customer service. 3 other airlines proactively implemented similar monitoring systems, not wanting to face their own viral discrimination incidents. Harvard Business School requested permission to develop a case study on strategic response to workplace bias. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund announced they would use Meridian's $500,000 donation to fund bias training programs for customer service industries nationwide. 2 months later, Meridian's customer satisfaction scores reached their highest levels in company history. Employee engagement surveys showed significant improvement in workplace culture. Stock prices not only recovered, but climbed 12% above pre-incident levels as investors recognized the company's genuine commitment to change. Industry publications featured Meridian as a model for proactive diversity initiatives. Patricia Wells received the Corporate Responsibility Leadership Award from the National Urban League for turning crisis into meaningful reform. But the most significant change was quieter, more personal. Gate agents across the airline industry began treating every passenger with the respect they deserved, regardless of appearance, because everyone now knew someone might be watching. Someone might have the power to demand accountability. Someone might be Darius Washington. The system had changed not through violence or lawsuits, but through strategic application of economic leverage and public accountability. Real power, Darius reflected, wasn't about getting even. It was about making sure discrimination never happened to anyone else. And that was a victory worth far more than money. 6 months after the incident, Darius Washington received an unexpected letter. It arrived at SkyConnect headquarters in a simple white envelope with no return address. Inside, handwritten on lined notebook paper, was a message that made him pause. "Mr. Washington, you don't know me, but I was the teenager with blue hair at Gate B12. My name is Ashley Chen. What you did that day changed my life. I'm studying business at Northwestern now, majoring in corporate ethics. I want to use economic power to fight injustice like you did. Thank you for showing me that one person with courage can change entire systems. Ashley." Similar letters arrived weekly from passengers who witnessed the confrontation. Teachers used the video in diversity education classes. Business schools analyzed his strategic response as a masterclass in principled leadership. The ripple effects continued expanding. Jennifer Kim parlayed her viral live stream into a social justice advocacy platform with over 2 million followers. She documented discrimination cases across multiple industries, always encouraging systematic solutions over individual revenge. Harold and Martha became volunteer diversity trainers for airline customer service programs, sharing their witness testimony to help employees recognize unconscious bias. Dr. Rebecca Martinez's consulting firm experienced explosive growth as companies rushed to implement bias detection systems before facing their own viral incidents. The Washington Protocol, as business journals dubbed it, became standard crisis response methodology. Acknowledge wrongdoing specifically, implement measurable changes immediately, demonstrate accountability publicly. Harvard Business School's case study became required reading in MBA programs across the country. The title, Strategic Justice: How Economic Leverage Drives Systematic Change. But perhaps the most meaningful impact happened quietly, one interaction at a time. Gate agents throughout the airline industry now approached every passenger with genuine respect, regardless of their appearance or background. The monitoring system served as constant reminders that discrimination had real consequences. Customer service training programs incorporated bias recognition as core curriculum. New employees learned that treating people with dignity wasn't just morally right, it was economically essential. These black stories of discrimination were finally being met with white-hot accountability that created lasting change. The touching stories shared by passengers showed how one moment of strategic courage could inspire thousands of people to demand better treatment in their own lives. Real-life stories like Darius Washington's proved that systematic change was possible when people refused to accept injustice as inevitable. 3 weeks ago, Darius received the Presidential Medal for Business Ethics, recognizing his innovative approach to corporate accountability and social justice. In his acceptance speech, he said simply, "Real power isn't about wealth or position. It's about using whatever influence you have to ensure everyone receives the dignity they deserve." Strategic thinking beats emotional reaction. Systematic change outlasts individual revenge. And economic accountability drives faster reform than years of protests. When you face discrimination, document everything, build witnesses, and respond strategically. Your voice matters. Your dignity matters. Your story can change the world. Today, discrimination still exists in customer service across every industry. But now everyone knows it can be recorded, shared instantly, and have devastating consequences for companies that allow it. The next time you witness injustice, remember Darius Washington's example. What discrimination have you witnessed in travel or customer service? Share your story in the comments below. If this story inspired you to stand up for others, hit that share button and spread awareness. Subscribe for more real-life stories of strategic justice and systematic change. Together, we can build a world where everyone receives the respect they deserve.
Behind every headline is a human story. At Beat Stories, we go deeper, where emotion meets evidence and drama reveals the system. If this story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, don't forget to subscribe. There's more to come.